All right, today I want to talk about having the talk, whether it would be with your, teachers, friends, family, even your parents. It gets to a point, where you keep hearing it over and over again, like, oh, you're at that age, I can't wait till you have your first sexual experiences, you're going to want to do this and then that, and, make sure you wrap it up. Only for it to not happen at all. Like it gets to a point where it just goes in one ear and out the other. You're just like, okay, like it's not going to happen. So, like, why am I even listening to it? But I had my very first sex ed class when I was 14 in eighth grade. Before that, there was nothing. There was like none of those classes. And then eighth grade was the very first one. And I remember it was in the cafeteria with this bald manlet gym teacher who basically, like, you got assigned a gym teacher. Like, the gym teachers taught the sex ed classes. And the only thing I remember in that class was this guy, and I swear to God, like every 5 minutes after he was done lecturing us on whatever it was, he would always say, like, ladies, watch out for men. All men want is sex. Don't, like, it was just like going on and on and on. It would piss off all the guys in the class. They would always talk about it. Like, why does he keep saying that? Um, and that's what he would do. He would just say, oh, ladies, be weary of men. Do not trust them. All they want is sex. All they want is sex. And I remember he gave this story about how during the time some kid and his girlfriend, they did it, they hooked up, and then he left, and then there's all this big drama. The girl was crying in the locker room, and the teacher had to get involved, and he said, oh, don't worry, honey, that's just how men are, all men want is sex, basically, like, he told her, like, it's not her fault, that's just how men are. And the dude was such a beta, man. It's just like, but yeah, like, that's like the main thing I remember is this guy telling us this every day, every single day, that just like, oh, watch out for men. All they want is sex. Just watch out, watch out. And the second thing I remember is this dude basically tried to scare us all into saying, and I don't even know if this is true or not, but basically he was like, oh, if you have sex with one person, you're having sex with millions and millions of people, because, that person you had sex with has also had sex with, these other people, and then these other people have had sex with those other people, and, you're having sex with millions of people, and it just made no sense. He's like, oh, that makes your chances to get STDs very high. And it stuck with me. Like, that's like what stuck with me, and it scared everybody else. And yeah, that whole class sucked, man. Him just trying to give the talk, like, oh, men, come on, be responsible, don't sleep around, don't do that. It's just like he was, I don't know, man. The class sucked. That was like the first sex ed class I had in my junior year. Now, this wasn't even a sex ed class. It was like for like sensitive topics. You weren't allowed to take it if you were a sophomore or a freshman. You had to be specifically a junior during the second quarter, or a senior, because he would talk about quote unquote sensitive topics or whatever. It was none of that. Basically, like, all it consisted of, and I wish I had this channel during that era, because the amount of things that happened was actually nuts. It was me and my friend, and we were the only guys in that class. The person who taught the class was this old, bitter, an angry lady. She did not like us, and the whole thing was just like, all they would do is just talk. They would just go on like rants about men the whole time, guys. I'm not even joking. While I was sitting there, they'd be like, oh God, we can't stand, and they would literally have PowerPoint presentations about how, oh, men are destroying society, and all this shit. And I just like sat there and was like, okay, can you imagine if the roles were reversed? But I didn't care, like, what they said. I was just like, all right, whatever. None of them liked me. None of them liked me at all. And I remember one day my friend, he came in late, like really late. It was like early in the morning. I got there, and they were talking, same rant. Like, they would do like the same thing every day. In the morning, they like rant about men. Basically, they were doing the same thing. Like, oh, why is the only thing they want is sex? Why is that all they care about? And the teacher, she said, because since I was the only guy there at the moment, like, because my friend wasn't there yet, she looks at me and says, like, oh, why don't you explain it? You're a guy. And, we were sitting in a circle, and they all fucking looked at me. So I felt pressured to answer that. And I gave like the worst fucking analogy answer in the world. Basically, I said, like, men have the seed, and they have to give the seed to the woman. Like, and I said, if you're a farmer and you have a bunch of seeds and there's a bunch of holes that you have to plant them in, you're going to try and plant that shit in like as many holes as possible. And when I said that, The girl sitting next to me was like, "You're disgusting. You're disgusting. How dare you? How dare you?" Just going on and on. I was just looking at her with no emotion, just blank stare, just like, oh my God, man, what is wrong with this world? You know. But I mean, yeah, even like having the talk with like my parents. My dad never. I don't think he ever like mentioned like anything like about sex or anything, like what to do in a woman's presence. I don't think he actually ever did. My mom always tells me like to listen to her because like she's the expert because she's a woman. Like she knows what girls want and shit. And like she'll try to say like, oh, when you do this, you need to. And it's just like same thing, just goes in one ear and out the other. Like I'm getting older. I'm not a teenager anymore. It's just like, it's gonna. I can't predict the future. I don't even know like what's gonna happen. I don't need to like listen to like the talk like after the billionth time. Like she always tells me like, oh, you need to, wear a condom and do this and that. I'm just like, all right, yeah, I know, it's common sense. But yeah, like that's pretty much it for the talk. Like it literally just goes in one ear and out the other. And yeah, that's pretty much it.